Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Today on the Focus on Why podcast, I'm joined by Manj Mahal. Manj, welcome to Focus on Why.
Thank you so much, Amy, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you today.
Well, I am too, because when we were talking before and getting an idea of what it is you wanted to share, I love the story. It's a very individual story to you, and I want you to sort of share that with the audience. So let's start first with what it is you do right now.
Amy, first of all, I'm a mother of two beautiful young boys. I'm a property developer and investor based in Southwest London. I work full-time as a management consultant and I'm a chartered accountant. That's at a very high level what I do.
Very good. And how did you start out in that career?
So I suppose, I've wear two hats. I've been wearing two hats for a very, very long time. Going back to how I became a chartered accountant, if a story there, I came into the UK in 1997. So when I came into the UK, I was kind of inspired to do really well academically by my granddad. My granddad, he was an ex-army officer, and he always really pushed me to work really hard. He actually used to get me up at 4:00 during exam weeks, and it used to make me his special cream tea with loads of almonds. So he used to wake me up at 4:00 and used to make sure that I study. And he always used to say, "Be something in your life," and that was kind of his way to push me. And that clearly worked because I think from a very young age I was very competitive, and I always wanted to kind of be the top ranked student. I was typical teacher's pet. Even from a very young age. So when I moved to the UK, my grandparents were still in India, but what he said stayed with me. So I had a choice to go out and work like my brothers did. They were younger than me, or carry on pursuing my education, and that's the path I chose. When I came to the UK, English was my first language, so I have to work very hard to learn the language. Not so much, reading the language wasn't a problem, but it was more speaking. So I have to work very hard to kind of, become fluent at speaking the language, as well as then learning in English language, because my first kind of language was Punjabi. And also the cultural differences as well. I came from a school where the boy used to sit on one side and the girls used to sit on another side. So I went to a college where, there's the boys and girls, they all sat in the same classroom and learn as friends. So there was lots of cultural differences as well. So it was hard at a very different levels. Also because what I've studied in India wasn't recognized here. So I was almost kind of, pushed back 2 years. So I have to go back to the level where I was 2 years ago. But my granddad kind of, he was my inspiration, and I wanted to make him proud. So I worked really hard. I've got my A-levels and I wanted to go to university. But because I wanted to go to university and I've got the grades to go to the universities I really want to go to, but because I was still an overseas student, my fee was that of an overseas student. And my dad, he was a market trader. Now we were okay, but we were not well off enough for my dad to pay the university fee, which was kind of very, very expensive. So I then started looking at, okay, well, I still want to make my granddad proud. I still want to be something in my life. What are the other avenues I can explore? And I think from very early on, I've realized the value of being open-minded and having really good relationship with people. So I developed a really good relationship with a career counselor at the college I went to. And we explored various options. And he kind of said, well, what it is that you want to be? And I said, well, I want to learn about business. I want to learn about how the business operates. Because my family owned land and they some of my family members, they were market traders. They were all kind of in various businesses. I've always been curious about learning about businesses. And he said, well, potentially, have you thought about accountancy? And I thought, oh, it's like bean counters, right? Doesn't sound very exciting. But again, the being open-minded really, really served me well, because I gave him an opportunity to explain how it works and various doors which it can open. And the more he talked, the more I was convinced that, okay, this is the path I want to follow. So I then decided, right, okay, well, just because I can't go to university doesn't mean that I will not be able to fulfill my ultimate desire to be something in my life. And so I then enrolled on an evening classes to study for accountancy, whilst I also found a job working for a very kind of small firm of accountancy, learning the basics of how to put the accounts together. So I used to do that on full-time basis, and I used to go to college one evening a week to do my accountancy. And that's kind of, how I became became chartered accountant. And I think, I can be very philosophical about things. And I'm a strong believer that sometimes, things happen for a reason. And actually, retrospectively, that's one of the best things which could have happened, because by the time I finished my accountancy qualification, I was already an assistant manager with one of the top accountancy firms in the world, whilst my friends were still just coming out of university and they had debts and everything, whereas I had kind of 3 years experience, a qualification which is equivalent to a degree, and I was by then doing my master's as well. So yeah, sometimes, when things don't go your way, you look at it and you think, why has it happened to me? I worked so hard for this, and you can be quite demoralizing. But sometimes, things really do happen for a reason.
So your interpretation of be something in your life, what did your grandfather think of you?
I think that's the sad thing, because sorry, I wasn't expecting this. Because before I actually qualified, he passed away. And but he's again, even now, I think he's looking down at me, and I think, I kind of always visualize the look on his face, how happy he would be. But I think even now, he's very proud of me, and even to this day, he inspires me to do the right thing. Again, like they say, that do the right thing even when people are not watching you. Just because your loved ones are not there physically with you, they're always there. Their words always inspire you. So yeah,
it's a great mantra to have, and it's obviously very emotional for you.
It is. I was very, very close to my grandparents, and yes, so yeah, to this day they inspire me. Their work ethics, what they taught me, and I'm hoping to pass that on to my children.
And growing up, what did you learn as a child spending time with your grandparents?
I think, they taught me so many things. I think they taught me the value of community. We lived in a small village where, even from a very young age, once a week we used to kind of, because I grew up in North India, and lots of things kind of revolves around the local kind of, the temples. And from a very young age, I was like 9, 10. All of us, other girls similar age, used to go there and help, like, clean up, cook the food. And the whole community used to come together, and everyone contributed in their own way. Some gave money, some gave time, some gave whatever skill they've had. Some people were very good at cooking, the others was just good at cleaning. So I think the sense of community, the value of hard work. Again, when I was growing up, we were not poor, but we have to be very, very careful about how we spend our money. So we have to make sure that we are making the most of what we've had. We had land. We also had cows. We used to sell milk, so I used to help out. And also, the value of hard work, but also doing the right thing. And my grandparents also taught me that you are never too young or old to learn anything. Before I used to go to school, I used to help clean up. When I used to come back from school, I used to help around the house, help in the farm and everything. And also just, treat people with respect. One of the things my grandmom always used to say is that, protect your reputation, because it takes years to earn reputation and it takes seconds to lose it. And that always stayed with me. Just I'm very kind of protective of my reputation. I'll protect it fiercely, and hence I'm very careful about who I attach myself with, the people I hang out with, who I work with, who I associate myself with. Now, I also wear my heart on my sleeve and made my fair share of mistakes. Trusting people too quickly, trusting people I shouldn't have trusted, perhaps, not doing enough due diligence on people. But I think that's part of growing up. You learn from your mistakes. As longer you learn from your mistakes, I think it just makes you a stronger and a better person. So yeah, there's many things my grandparents taught me.
And I guess resilience is one of the biggest ones as well. Just that initial devastation of not being able to be a student when you thought you would be, and turning that right round to actually a much more advantageous position for you.
Absolutely. I think, resilience is one of those things which I think when you're growing up, it's not something, we certainly did something, it's not something we talked about, but it was so part of what we did. My dad, when we were growing up, he actually didn't see us for years because he was in the UK and we were in India. And that must have taken him a lot of kind of, resilience to be able to stay away from his family and just doing the right thing, making the sacrifices for the long-term better future of his family. And again, I had setbacks, we all have setbacks, but I think it's the resilience which actually gives us that power to get through and ultimately reach our aspirations and goals.
And also, I see the leap of faith that various generations have made in your family, including yourself, that just trust in your own ability.
Absolutely. I think, Amy, we all watch people, we watch prime ministers, we watch these amazing big personalities, and we are inspired by them. And I think it's absolutely right to be inspired by those people I've achieved. But I've always been inspired by people who are very close to me. So, the sacrifice my dad made for the long-term good of our families, I find that is inspirational. My husband, who's also my business partner, his work ethics and non-negotiables when it comes to quality of service we provide to our tenants I find that inspirational. My father-in-law, he inspires me with his growth mindset. He's in his 70s, but I always see him reading books and manuals and watching YouTube videos because he's an electrical engineer. So it's always kind of, learning about how to solve electrical, plumbing, or car problems. My 11-year-old, he loves maths, and my father-in-law, he go out and he's 11 years old, and my dad's gone out. I call my father-in-law my dad. He's gone out and bought GCSE maths and A-level books because he enjoys learning about things. So he learn about mathematical concepts and try and teach an 11-year-old mathematical concepts which he doesn't need to learn about until he reaches A level. But so he really inspires me with his growth mindset. So I've always been inspired about people who actually live close to me, because then I can see that actually they live and breathe those values every day, rather than someone who you see in the papers or read about in the newspapers, or you listen to them on TV, but you don't exactly know how they live their everyday life. Because then there is a risk that you can end up playing in someone else's playground and not be authentic and true to yourself.
I think that's such a great piece of advice, in that a lot of people look too far away from where they already are, and actually the true inspirations are right in their doorstep.
Very true, very true. I think I've learned that early on as well, because again, one of the things which I love principles. I love principle-based learning, because I think principles are like lighthouse which guide you when you're lost. So that was one of the reasons I loved economics. I did economics A levels because there were so many kind of principles. For example, diminishing rate of return, the demand and supply. And when he did my accountancy, things like debits and credits, everything needs to be balanced. Whether that's your books or your life, you need to have a balance in life. And when I started my corporate career, one of the concepts I think which was sold to me was work-life balance. So in my initial years, I used to look up to these female partners and used to be inspired by them, thinking, wow, these ladies, they've got everything. They are partners and they've got family and everything. But then, when I had a closer look at them, you kind of realize that actually they've got nannies, they've got cooks, they've got lots of helpers. They don't actually see their kids as often as I would like to see my kids. And so I've kind of realized that, that work-life balance every day is a bit of a misrepresented concept, because over a period of a month, you may have work-life balance, but it's difficult to have that every single day. And sometimes people present themselves like, they do have that, but what you're not seeing is actually all the help which they're getting in the background.
And what about the decisions that you make? Do you ever have people challenge you in your family?
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, I tell you a story. I bought my first property in 2004. Now, I was the first one to go to kind of have a degree, and I was the first person in the family to have a professional career, and I was the first one to buy a property, and I had so much resistance from not my immediate family, but more my extended family. My cousins and others were kind of saying, well, what are you doing? If you bought a property and you get married and you didn't get on, and then your husband's going to take that away. And, girls don't buy properties. This is the sort of things which, boys do. So there was. And even I think when I first started my corporate life, I think, yes, I bought property in my early 20s. And that was more because as an accountant, I've just realized that certain assets appreciate and certain assets depreciate. And property was one which is, okay, this is going to appreciate, so I'm just going to put my money into property. But my focus was very much on career. And the job I've had took me all over the country. I was traveling a lot. And there was a lot of kind of, just challenging me along the lines that, it's a quite demanding career. It takes you all over the country. When you have a family, your husband probably won't like it. You have to, you stay away, and then, your family may doubt you, who you're mixing with. So there's always been, I think, these challenges. And I think partially most of those challenges, I very much looked at them. Well, actually, they're probably coming from the right place. It's just because, when you are the first to do something new, you are not living the life other people imagine you would, because that's not what they have done. So you kind of have to just take them on a journey and just accept that it's coming from the right place.
And is it easy, do you find, to challenge yourself in this way?
Challenge myself. I think, yes, I've learned the value of thoughtful disagreement, Amy, because sometimes I think our ego gets in the way when we have made a decision and we think, actually, I'm right. And we are too scared to be challenged because that may expose our vulnerability. But I've learned the value of thoughtful disagreement, because when someone challenges you and if they help you better understand the decision you're making and why you're making it, it may actually save you a lot of heartache or money or time. So, for a long time, I actually welcomed that, because when sometimes, some people challenge what you're doing or why you're doing that, actually, you start thinking about your own decision. And there has been times when through that thoughtful disagreement, I have actually changed my mind. So I think there is definitely value in that. But as an individual, it's important to recognize when actually the other person does have the credibility to engage in a thoughtful disagreement with you versus, they just trying to kind of pull you down while you're trying to progress. So there's a difference between the two. And I think with experience, you learn who's coming from which place.
And you're just open-minded.
Absolutely. I think that is so critical because, again, like I said, going back to when I wasn't able to go to university, if I wasn't open-minded, I probably would have ended up in a very different place. And I've been open-minded, both in our kind of property business as well as my corporate career. But also, I think it's important to be open-minded with people who you trust, and that only comes with time, because there are, all of us got people in our lives who you can't be open-minded with because their values, their work ethics, the way they think, the way they live their life is just not aligned with how you want to live your life. Like I always talk about, we want to spend time with engines and not anchors. And I wouldn't necessarily be open-minded with anchors because no matter what I say or what I do, they'll always try and pull me down. But yes, absolutely. It's so critical to be open-minded with those people who are going to turbocharge your life.
So your why has sort of changed as you got older. Why do you do what you do now?
So why has changed? I think there's a number of reasons why I do what I do now. I think one of them is still to have that security, because I think, like they say, that you never own success, you only ever borrow it. So I know that as soon as and I've seen that happening with people, they become too complacent, and then actually things can be taken away from them, and that really scares me. So the security is still really, really important to me. The other thing, my other why is inspiring people, but also more importantly, inspiring my children. Legacy has always been my why. Again, growing up in a family of landowners, I've seen the power of leaving legacy. We used to talk about that, this piece of land was bought by my great granddad, and it's still there. So legacy is legacy is really important to me. But also now it's about challenging myself, and just pushing myself and seeing the new things I can learn, and how further I can push myself, and what else I can achieve in my life. And again, going back to my granddad's mantra, be something in your life. And I think one of the other things he used to say is that, always push yourself. Ask yourself that, are you the best version of yourself? And he actually makes me quite happy that I've still got so many areas to improve on.
So what's next for you, Manj? I
think in many ways, I think one of the things I really want to do is that just keep pushing new boundaries. One of the things which is really important to me now, again, I always lived in an extended family when I was growing up with my grandparents, and now I live with my in-laws. And I started this kind of health and fitness regime several months ago. And one of the reasons I started that was that I want to be strong enough and I want to be healthy enough to look after my in-laws as they get older. So again, the next for me is I want to continue on that journey of health and fitness, and also, that's also if I can inspire my family, my other family members to be healthy and fit, inspire my children to be fit and healthy, that makes me really happy. In my corporate career, one of the reason I still work full time, again, goes back to that security, but it also goes back to the fact that I love helping people, and I moved from being an accountant to consultant over 12 years ago because that's more aligned with how I like to work. In consultancy, you really get to help people, and you really get to apply what you've learned, and you see the satisfaction on the client's face when you've helped solve a problem for them. On our business side, again, we are very lucky that my in-laws family, they've been in property for several years, so we are second generation property investor developers. But everything's been done in a very kind of traditional way. So what I want to pass on to my children, not just the assets, but also a business. So we are, we are working through more systemizing our business, also scaling up development side of our business, and just introducing better systems and processes, which helps us not only grow but sustain the successful business which our parents worked very hard to build for us.
And if you cast your mind back to 97 when you first came over from India, is this the life that you saw for yourself?
Probably not, Amy, if I'm really honest with you, because the it's like they say, you are a sum of five people you spend your time with. And when I came, I spent a lot of time with my immediate family, like my cousins and everyone. And all of them, they were married when they were 19, 20. So I thought, okay, well, I'll have an okay career, because I wanted to be something, but I didn't exactly know what that would look like. But I thought, okay, I want to have a career. I want to be self-sufficient. I want to be independent. But I think that if I look at where I am, I think it's gone much, much better. I'm in a much better place than I envisaged I would be. So I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful.
So the be something in your life, what's the next for you to do?
So I think next for me, I've got many personal challenges which I want to overcome. At the moment, I'm going through a bit of a journey of acquiring new habits and breaking some old bad habits. So I would be doing that. As far as the business is concerned, again, we're very hands-on. We're very kind of traditional in the way we manage our business. We're very hands-on. So we just want to systemize and make that business better. We are still buying properties, more on the development side. So we very much kind of want to, again, because I came from a family of market traders where property investment is, it's a very long-term strategy. But we want to be able to kind of trade some assets as well to realize some value. Because at the moment, if you've got an investment portfolio, a lot of the value is tied into that. So we've got some big plans. But again, the other side of the coin is that we are very, very conservative as well. We're very conservative, risk averse, because our parents work very hard to give us what they've given to us. And we want to make sure that we don't take silly risks and risk what we've already got. So, with due diligence and doing thorough due diligence on everything we do is really, really critical for us. So I think at a very high level, we want to keep growing what we've got, systemizing a business, make it more of a business rather than a set of assets, and then just keep pushing ourselves. And I love helping other people. I learned very early on that you're only competing with yourself. There is more than enough opportunities to go around for everyone. So it makes me very happy when I'm able to help other people.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your journey and your future plans as well. So it's really exciting. How would people get in touch with you, Manj, if they wanted to reach out?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, which I mainly use for my property stuff. I'm also on LinkedIn as well, which at the moment only use for corporate. But yeah, people can reach out to me there. I'm also on Instagram as well. So the links are attached.
Yeah, they're all in the show notes, so people can just click on them and connect with you. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. What would be your final message?
I think my final message would be resilient and be prepared to be bored. Except that to achieve your goals, you have to keep sowing the seeds. If one door closed, the other one will surely open. Be inquisitive and never miss an opportunity to learn something new. Be clear about your guiding principles, because they will guide you like a lighthouse when you're lost. And when the going gets tough, remind yourself of your first, second, and third level why.
Thank you for listening to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson, and if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave me a 5-star Apple Podcast review. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and become a member of my inspiring, uplifting, and positive Focus on Why Facebook group. I help people to focus on their why with clarity, uniting their passion with their purpose with a plan to create the life they truly desire. If you would like me to help you focus on your why, then please book a free 20-minute coaching call via calendly.com/Amy Rowlandson. And if you haven't already, please sign up for the Friday Focus weekly newsletter via my website, amyrowlandson.com. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.